Hi everyone. In this mini lecture, I'm going to be talking about a problem that should help you with question number 7 on the second exam. So in this one, you're going to be given the code and you're going to have to say what's true, um, and it's going to be expressing a relationship between the accumulator and the item, um, which in this case is going to serve as the index. So what you're going to do is you can run the code, but it's good to just for practice, at this point, um, to try to draw the table on your own so you understand how this code works, right? So you can see um, what this function is doing is it's supposed to remove all the letters from the string s. And so the way it does this is it goes through every index, so every position of characters in the string, right? Because it starts at position 0 and goes all the way to s dot length minus 1. Again, remember range stops 1 before whatever you give it. And the last position is at s dot length minus 1. So this is going to go through all the characters, and each time you can see, regardless of the index, the new accumulator is going to be the accumulator, the previous accumulator, where you've chopped off the first character. So remember, the way substring works is it gives you uh, the part of the string starting with the first input, starting at the position with the first input, and ending one before, just like range, ending one before the position that's given by the second input, right? So here we're starting at 1, which means we're not including character 0, and we're going all the way up to acc.length minus 1. Remember, 1 less than this. So that's going to be all the way to the last position in the string. So we're going to get all the characters from 1 on, right? And we start with the accumulator of the string itself, s. So it's going to start with s, and that's what the accumulator starts at. The index starts at 0, and then the next accumulator is going to be s with its first character removed, right? When index is 1, and then the next one is going to be uh, the first character removed from the accumulator, which has its first character removed. So that's actually going to remove 2 characters from s dot length when index is 2, etc. So let me just show you um, the table that's drawn. I'll say that over here you could see it's calling remove all letters, uh, and the input that it's given is whatever they type, whatever the user types in. So it's going to prompt the user for a string, and whatever they type in for the string, that's going to be what we have for remove all letters. So over here I typed in A, B, C, D, E, but I'll just run it again just to show you that, right? So A, B, C, D, E is what I type in, so that's the string, and you can see that it starts with the accumulator of A, B, C, D, E, and as I said, this is when, that's again your starting S, which was A, B, C, D, that's what was typed in, and your starting item, remember first row, so first row, first column is your starting accumulator, first row, second column is your um, starting item in your list that you're giving it. And remember here you're giving it a list of integers starting with 0. And then each time, what is it going to do? As I said, it's just going to remove the first character, or it's going to give you a new accumulator with the first character removed. So the ACC started at A, B, C, D, E, index started at 0. So it's going to take the substring of A, B, C, D, E from 1 to A, B, C, D, E dot length, which would be 5, right? So it's taking the substring from position 1 to 4, so it's getting the B at 1, C at 2, D at 3, and E at 4, and that becomes the new accumulator, right? And so then the new accumulator is your BCDE, and your index is your next one in the range, which is just 1, right? And then it's going to take that BCDE, and it's going to get the substring from 1 to BCDE dot length, which is 4, so it's going to go 1 to 3. So you could see now it's going to do C, D, and E, 1, 2, and 3. And that's going to be your next accumulator. And again, the next item is 2 in your list, right? So you could see, and then the next one would be the accumulator of DE, because that's going to be the substring of CDE from position 1 to CDE dot length, so 1 to 3. Remember that goes 1 to 2, so that would just be the D and the E, right? So, well, I guess I'll just continue it since I'm basically at the end here. Okay, so D is your next accumulator. Index is 3. It does DE. It takes the substring from 1 to DE dot length, so 1 to 2, which really goes 1 to 1. So it just gives you the E, right? And finally, you go to when your E is 4, or sorry, when your item is 4, right, which is S dot length minus 1, because the string length is 5, it's just going to go and take the accumulator of E, do substring from 1 to 1 dot length, right? So it's going to like end 1 before that, so that's going to say like 1 to 0, which means it's not going to get any characters, and that's actually the result. The result is the empty string. It's not showing it right here because there are no characters to select, but you could see there's that gap, and that's the return value from remove all letters. Right, so it does actually remove all the letters. So as I said, you could see that each time it's removing a character from the accumulator, and initially the accumulator, when the item was 0, the accumulator had started at S, so it had all the letters of S, and then every single time it was removing one letter at a time. So when we had the item was 1, when the item went up to 1, one letter had been removed. When item is 2, it removed one letter from B, C, D, E. So you have just C, D, E, right, which is actually 2 letters removed from A, B, C, D, E. The next one you just had D, E, which was 1 letter removed from C, D, E. And since C, D, E had 2 letters removed from A, B, C, D, E, right, D, E represents the first 3 letters removed of A, B, C, D, etc. So hopefully you could sort of see the pattern and figure out what the relationship is between these two columns, right? So in case you don't see it, the relationship is that the item represents the number of characters we removed from S, right? So, because again, initially we removed 0 characters from S when it was A, B, C, D, E, and every time we go up 1, we removed 1 character. So when we're at 1, we've removed 1 character from the original string. When we go up to 2, we've removed 1 more, or 2 characters. When we're up to 3, we've removed 1 more, or 3. When we're up to 4, we've removed 1 more, or 4. And when we do this last one here, right, we'll have removed 5. So the final one will have at S dot length minus 1, right? That's what this is, because that's we're going up to S dot length. We'll have removed S dot length minus 1 characters from the string S. So if we removed basically S dot length minus 1, we've removed all but one of them, right? If S dot length is 5, it means we've removed 4 of the characters, and in this last time that we repeat it, we remove 1 more character to remove exactly S dot length characters. This is repeated S dot length times, right? Because it starts with 0, and you go 0 to S dot length minus 1. They're S dot length many S dot length many integers, right? So again, 0 to 5, it would be 0. If you did 5 for S dot length, it would be 0 to 4, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 5 characters. So the point is this was repeated 5 times. You've removed all 5 characters, or in general, if there was 10, you would have removed all 10 characters, etc., right? But the point is the last one, right, you've removed all but 1 characters, and the final accumulator is going to have 1 more character removed. So you literally are going to have an empty string where all the characters have been removed, right? So let's look at some of the answers now. So this is something that we want to be true all the time. So index is clearly not 0 all the time, right? We see that index, or the item, um, the index being here referring to the item, is changing each time. So that's something that's not always true. Index is equal to the length of s. Well, in this case, the length of s was 5, right? But index is not always 5. Index is equal to the length of s minus the length of ACC. So that it is what we want. Index is the difference of the length of s and the length of ACC. It's the number of characters we've removed, right? So when so initially, remember, ACC I said started at s, right? So we have the length of s minus the length of s was 0, right? Then the next one, we had the index was 1, right? And it was the length of ABCDE minus that length of the accumulator, which was just BCDE, and the difference of the lengths was 1, right? And then we had ABCDE minus CDE, right? And the difference of the lengths, there was 2, which was the next index over here, right? So since I said that the number of characters we've removed from S to get the accumulator is the index itself, another way of just saying that is that the index is equal to the length of S minus the length of ACC. So the other ones, ACC equals S minus index, that doesn't really make sense because S is a string. So what does it mean to subtract a number from a string, ABCD minus 0, ABCD minus 1? What does that mean? And that's not what the accumulator is going to be. Accumulator is equal to S. The accumulator is not always equal to S, right? That would mean that the accumulator is always ABCDE in every row. None of the other choices, well, we already showed it's one of them, mainly this one. And ACC is equal to ACC with its first letter removed. That, again, doesn't make sense. How could a string be the same as a string with its first letter removed, right? ABCDE is not equal to BCDE, right? Those are two different strings. We remove a letter each time. That's a different, that's something different entirely, right? So yeah, this was the answer, right? The index is the length of S minus the length of ACC. Index was the number of characters that we removed from S. So to get ACC, right? So again, if ACC is index characters shorter than S, then the difference of the lengths will be index.